So, hello everyone. Here we are again. This time with Sir Charles Pollard, Chairman of Restorative Solutions and formerly the Chief Constable of Thames Police, Thames Valley Police. Right? Did I say it right?
That's right. Thames Valley Police. Yeah.
Okay, there you go. Thanks. We had Nicola Preston some weeks ago here on one of his interviews as well, and she talked very happily about those early days at Thames Valley Police when you came up with the idea of using restorative justice in the force. Can you tell us a bit more about how it felt in those days? What was the spirit and what was the idea behind it?
Well, this was the middle 1990s. We're talking about how many years ago? About 20 years ago now. It seems a long time ago. And it was not coming back to the force with information about restorative justice. We in Thames Valley Police brainstorm new ways of criminal justice because we were very dissatisfied with the current system as it then was, of criminal justice in general. There was a lot of concern about criminal justice with the public in those days, with repeat cautions, youngsters committing crime, being given a telling off, a caution, and coming straight back the next day, doing the same thing again, and all that sort of thing. And so we were trying to find, we thought, surely there's a better way than what we do at the moment. And not only what we do, the police, but what the courts do. And the system of justice is not a very good system of justice. So we experimented, and my chief superintendent at Milton Keynes at the time was a lady chief superintendent called Caroline Nichol, who was a very innovative woman police officer. And she went out, I gave her the task of finding a better way, and she went to the community of Milton Keynes and set up a whole consultation system to get people to come up with a new system. And what they came up with was the idea of offenders and victims should meet, which was anathema to everything at that stage.
Well, I imagine that at that point, victims perhaps didn't necessarily feel very amicable to the idea of meeting their offenders, the person that may have harmed them.
That's true, exactly right. But then they tried it out with minor crime, with young offenders, juvenile offenders, and they tried it out particularly with, funnily enough, shop theft in the Marks and Spencer in the brand new Milton Keynes shopping centre. And after about a year of doing this, it seemed by everyone to be highly successful. Everyone thought this was far better than anything that had ever been tried before. The store thought it was better, the manager thought it was better, the amount of repeat offending reduced to almost nil. Victims of crime, if it was in the store or if it was another kind of theft, they all found it a much more amenable way of doing things. And so I had an independent evaluation done, which proved all those points. So from that point on, I personally was very interested in what we, the police, had found, and then we extended it to other parts of Thames Valley. We extended it to other crimes, so it wasn't just shop theft, a minor crime in the shopping centre. It became any minor crime with young offenders anywhere. And I went to the time when I really thought, when I started to understand, we come across something very special. So when I went and observed and sat in on a restorative conference between a youngster who had stolen someone's car, that youngster's father was there, and a very elderly victim who owned the car. And that was a stunning conference. Just the emotions and the encounter had a very, very big impact on everyone there. The youngster, so remorseful, realising the impact he had had. The elderly lady who had something very special to her stolen was extremely good, and she felt it much better to be able to get off her chest and talk to the person who'd done it. And more important still, the father of this youngster, who clearly felt very guilty about the way he'd been bringing up his child. And I suppose I personally felt with some justification, because the child clearly had a very bad rapport with his dad. Anyway, the father realised that he needed to up his game.
He was partly responsible for the situation.
He felt was partly responsible. I think quite rightly, actually. It's just I wouldn't normally sort of blame someone in a situation like that, but I did think in his case. Anyway, the end result was an absolute wow factor. It was just wow. Normally one's used to coming out of court, seeing a court case, you say, someone's been punished and the victim doesn't think the punishment's big enough, or it never took you anywhere. Here, we really were doing problem solving. What was the thing which caused this? We knew what it was. That had been put to bed, and the person had been caused to, the crime had been caused to, was feeling much better about it. Wow, that's brilliant.
I think that's a very positive and powerful outcome, but I also have the idea that perhaps this lady, it cannot have been easy to get her in a room with the offender, because many victims basically put bulk at the idea of being face-to-face in a room with the person that has harmed them. Was it difficult at that point? I mean, was she one of the first victims to be included in this process?
Well, it wasn't easy, but it never is. It doesn't get any easier with people who don't understand restorative justice. And that's always the big challenge of restorative justice. But the bottom line is your facilitators who talk to the victims and talk to them, there's a way to do it. There's a way to describe what's going to happen in a way which is non-threatening, which makes a victim of crime realise that this is a good thing to do for most victims. And when we later went on and did very big trials, what's called the London trials, funded by the government, we had about a 65% success rate on victims of crime. 65% of victims of crime for very, very serious crime, like street robbery, very serious aggravated burglary. 2/3 of people were happy to go meet their offender. So it's all to do with how you do it.
Well, that's extremely impressive. I mean, bear in mind, these days it is quite difficult to get to that sort of figure when it comes to arranging victims to meet their offenders. So we have talked about why RJ is so important, why you see it as so important, because it is life-changing after all.
It's completely life-changing, yeah. It is I use the word, there's a real wow about effective, inspirational restorative justice. Mostly it is quite inspirational when it is done. You can't say every single conference bringing people together is going to have that impact, but it's a very, very clever process. People don't realise how clever it is, just asking the right questions in the right way. It is extremely clever, and if you have a well-trained facilitator, they can engender this wow factor very, very, I won't say easily, but very professionally and most of the time. And so you've got these situations where instead of crime being, as I was just saying, an offender in court coming out, being weighed off, being sent to prison or being punished, and no one's very happy, they're not happy. The victims usually thinks it's a soft touch, they got off.
Yes.
The police are very often themselves think it's not being done very well. Get rid of all of that. Now, of course, we do need a system as well. We need the formal system too. But it can be ameliorated and improved hugely by being fused with restorative justice.
Oh, that's very interesting. So, lastly, what do you think is an important thing that needs to be done but is not being done in the UK at the moment? What do you think that what trick are we missing here at the moment?
The trick really is at the moment the funding's not going in the right way. I mean, the trials I've talked about was trials of doing restorative justice being led by the police. Now, the police are saying, we haven't got time for this, but in some ways, people, either police officers or people working closely with the police, are the best people to do it. Why? Because it's the police who routinely deal with victims of crime and routinely deal with offenders.
Well, that's right.
So they're the people who naturally talk to people generally. So of course they're good at it, usually. Not all of them, but many of them are. If you then go and you want people to come to do restorative justice who are only doing one side or the other, why would you expect it to succeed? I wouldn't expect it to succeed. And it does succeed to an extent, and it can be quite good, but it's not nearly as good as it could be.
Well, that's very interesting. Definitely something to think about. So thank you very much, Sir Charles, for your time. Thank you for being on the Restorative Forum.
Okay, nice to speak with you.
Thank you.
Okay.